Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I got another thumbnail art sketch here. This one is for the second episode of the Star Wars series I'm working on my other channel. And you'll notice that we've got a little blaster fight going on here. It's the iconic scene between Han Solo and what's that guy's name? Guido or something like that? I can't remember. Greedo. I don't know. But regardless, this one's going to be a bit different than some of my other ones. I take more of a painterly approach to it, and you'll see that after we get finished with this thumbnail here. As usual, I've done a small thumbnail sketch, probably about, I don't know, 1.5 by 2.5 inches, something like that, really small, just to get an idea of how I want my layout to be. And then I'll take that into Krita, blow it up, and print it out. And then I'll just do like some quick line work on the 8.5 by 11 size paper that I have it printed out on. And on this one, I actually, I didn't record the process, but I actually took a pen and did some ink lines on it before I put it into Krita this time. And you'll see I'm just going through, filling out some details and trying to get their poses, fairly accurate, pretty close to the way I want them to be. Getting the details on Greedo's head and just slowly making my way, filling out the details. And I do make some changes here and there. See, I just changed that hand position a little bit, I think. Yeah. See, you can tell right there I changed that position a little bit. I'm going to change this foot position. I didn't really like it. It didn't seem like he would be, his balance didn't look like it would be distributed properly enough the way that it was. So I had to go ahead and change that again just to make it look a little bit better, because it's something that would have definitely bugged me throughout the painting process or upon completion, whenever I just happen to notice it, which sometimes unfortunately is at the very end. Okay, so here we go. I'm taking more of a painterly approach, and I'm just throwing in a bunch of colors, keeping them fairly neutral, and that way they don't clash with each other super hard. They kind of blend together and shake hands because they're a little more neutral. And I'll just be going through, slowly adding colors. I just wanted to put a bunch of textures and fun stuff in there, so like if it was more of an abstract painting, it would have some interest. I'm just doing a little bit of like the coloration for that blaster at the moment. Coming in with a grayish green to start filling this guy out. And you'll notice I switch around in colors quite a bit. I'm trying to add more variation because for me, that's just more fun. I like having a lot more color than just say, one flat color with some highlights and some darks just by going up and down the color scale or the value scale. And I do have a value layer on here. You guys will probably see it at some point, so I can check and see how bright and dark everything is. Just going through, and you'll notice here, you see that I've switched some colors. There's some blues and purples and other stuff in there. That's been my thing here lately. I'm just really trying to get a lot of variation in all of my artwork, because at least for right now, that just really does it for me. I really like a lot of color variation within my images. Something I always liked about other artists' images as well. See, watch my color picker up there. You'll notice I switch between some, oranges and reds and other stuff. And it's probably pretty natural for other artists to do that. But, you also see a lot of artists that just pick, flat colors and they do like the cell shading. And I've just been trying to change things up, keep things a little more loose and a little more fun, and just have more fun in general with my art. Because I think that's the most important thing, is just you gotta have fun with it. If you're not having fun, then it's probably something you're not gonna keep doing for very long. And you gotta make sure that you don't get in your head that there is a right way and a wrong way to do art. there are right ways and wrong ways to draw things realistically. But if you're just drawing art, having fun, and being expressive, then there's really no wrong way to do it, as long as you have your fundamentals, which, to be honest, comes from knowing how to draw realistically. And that's not a guarantee for good artwork at all by any means. Because say like my son, he's a fantastic little artist. I love his stuff, but none of it's realistic, and he hasn't done any training on how to be a realistic artist. But it's stuff that he's seen, and it's inspired by those things. And he does really good stuff. I really like his artwork. And that if you ever get stumped as an artist, just think about back to your childhood. Just reflect back, and try to have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, that's what art is all about. It's just you want to evoke some kind of emotion or response out of people. Not to say that everything's art. I don't believe in that either. I mean, there's a lot of people that subscribe to that belief, and I don't agree with that. Not everything is art. Not everything that somebody calls art is art. That's their opinion, but that's part of the problem, or part of the thing you deal with as an artist. All of your work is subjective. So what somebody likes, other people may hate, or somebody may love. You never know until you get some feedback. Which, by the way, if you guys would like to give me any feedback, let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. Leave me a like or comment if you like it or don't like it, or that you think there's a better way to do things. I'm interested in hearing what you all have to say. And you see here, I'm putting some of that kind of the pinkish red in that gun. It's grayed down. Adding highlights here, keeping everything real kind of smudgy. Kind of looks like a marker, even. Like maybe what you would expect if you were using Copic markers or something of that sort. Just really playing around, having some fun. Now, if I was going for something closer to the original image, it would be more plasticky looking, obviously, because all these characters are based on Legos, which are obviously plastic and shiny and smooth. But we're just playing around and having a good time. We're not going full realistic, and we're not. I mean, obviously not with this image, but we're just having fun. That's all I'm trying to do, is have a little bit of fun, put a bunch of different colors in there, and just see how it goes. And I actually ended up really enjoying this image. It was a good time for me, and I like the colors. They're bright and interesting. Some of them are, not all of them. You can't have everything be the same level of saturation or brightness and darkness. Otherwise, it just messes with the eyeballs too much. You see, just watch this belt here. I'll start adding like just other random colors in here. I'm staying within the family group that you would expect to see in a belt, but I obviously added some extra colors in there just to change it. And it's not even really anything you would notice unless you watch the process. And you'll see the hair here. We'll end up getting some other stuff mixed in there. Just playing around. And then we're going to do some highlights here pretty soon from this blaster here, because it's going to reflect a lot of color. I actually had a bit of a challenge here, like deciding on how I wanted my highlights to be. But in the end, I think it turned out pretty good, in my own opinion. Still, I'm staying kind of within the same family group for these colors, like everything's kind of a reddish, purplish, pinkish hue, and we're staying near that family for the most part. Lots of cools in use, even in certain areas, with like the skin color for Han that I just put down, or the potato. There you go. There's my value layer, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, all these colors are just way too dark. But yeah, we got a lot of warms. We're staying a lot in between the red and the blue category. We're on the that side of our color wheel. If you look up to the right, you'll see the circle. And we've pretty much stayed on that bottom left half the whole time, the left to bottom left. Making the eyes brighter because, like I said, I noticed that everything was just too dark. I needed to bump things up, make it more interesting. Adding that kind of reddish collar for shadow. Kind of comes off as like a purplish collar in this image. At least to me, to my eyes, the way I see collars. Other people may see it differently. Now you see, I'm just barely going over that, warming that table up a little bit. I didn't like how gray it was. I thought that was kind of boring. I'll go through and, add some other colors and make it darker, kind of round it out. Maybe like little highlights on there as well. You see me bumping up the highlights in Han's hair a bit, trying to put some of that reflection on his face from the blaster, but it wasn't quite working out the way I wanted it to, so I kind of backed off on that. Pretty sure eventually I put some red highlights on some more on like the eyes and stuff, which I still wasn't 100% sure about, but I decided to run with it. So I used just like a painterly brush to add some of the highlights and whatnot, and went back over it a bit with the airbrush, just to kind of smooth it out to give it kind of more of the smooth plasticky look without going overboard with it. Just going through, tightening some things up, darkening these holes. Honestly, like some of this, like the image I was looking at was from the gameplay, and I never really played with Legos a whole lot when I was a kid, so some of the stuff I didn't really understand. Like this table they're using actually has a couple of connector circles on top, but I didn't include those just for brevity, But if any of you have played the game, you'll remember this part and you'll kind of understand what's going on. And you see, just adding like a little smoking gun for interest. You want to add extra little things when you can. Like right now, I'm kind of in my head. I'm like, okay, my characters are coming together. I'm liking the way that they're looking. I need to add some extra stuff to make it more interesting. So I'll end up adding like some highlights here pretty soon to both characters, I believe. I know specifically this guy right here, he's going to be getting some highlights. There we go. We got some highlights coming in, and I'm pretty sure I add even more. I'm not 100% on that at this point. Adding some to the guns to make those more interesting, to reflect kind of the ambient light that would be coming off those blasters. There you go. You see me adding some of that light to Han's eyes, or Potato's eyes. Adding a few more touches of highlights to him. Now I'm checking out my image. I'm like, this still isn't complete. The characters are about the way I want them, but I still need to bump up some of the brightness and saturation, to make sure people are looking at this guy and find him somewhat interesting. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. I like the way it looks. Once you zoom out a little bit, you guys kind of missed it there because I forgot to record, but just kind of correcting the background a little bit, kind of adding some depth to the scene that they're in, adding a kind of a dark purple for shadows to kind of emphasize the weight of the characters and the table there, and adding a bit of environment just so that they feel rooted in the image, Now in the actual image, they had these little lights in the background, and I thought that'd be a good idea to add a bit of background just so the whole image seemed a little more concrete. It didn't seem as ambient and floating around, which I'm glad I did in the end. And you see, I've left these corners kind of dark, so it pushes the emphasis towards the characters in the middle there. Now, I don't know if you guys think so, but once I started adding the walls and stuff back there, this image really came together for me, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. That's about it. And I just wanted to imply it. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to do a bunch of detail. At this point, I'm just about done. I'm going through. You see, I zoom out real far to give myself a better idea of what I think of the image. And I just used an adjustment layer there to bump up saturation. Now I got this little Star Wars logo that I just did a quick paint of. And thumbnail size, it looks good. You zoom in close and you're like, ugh, this is messy, but I don't know. I like the way this image turned out, and I hope you guys did too. I hope you learned something from it, or were at least entertained by it. And if you got any questions or comments, I'd appreciate hearing them. And leave me a like. Take care. Bye-bye.